welcome to the Election Fix. We're nearly at the end of the road. The last phase of voting took place on Sunday, and with counting just 2 days away, we thought we'd do something different with this episode. This is the Heartland Tracker. On this episode, we'd like to look at the small bulk of states that the BJP won in a big way in 2014. It's the sea of saffron between Gujarat and Bihar that contributed the vast majority of the 282 seats that the BJP won on its own in 2014, getting a huge majority and making sure that Modi was the Prime Minister. If it is to win again in 2019, even though the BJP has been trying to expand into the south and the east, it will need to win a bulk of the seats in the heartland again. We have with us today Supriya Sharma, who, among other things, has written a series called The Modi Voter, trying to understand the dynamics of voters in exactly these seats that the BJP won big in 2014. And we have with us Akash Bisht, who has travelled through a number of the heartland states to do ground reporting for Scroll this election. Supriya, what is your sense of how important the heartland is to the BJP voter? Is this ultimately where the true Modi voters reside?
Yes, indeed, Rohan. This is where the BJP made the big gains that helped it achieve a clear majority on its own in 2014. The critics of the party often point out that despite its landslide victory, it only won 33% of the national vote share. What is missed, however, is that in many heartland states, it comfortably crossed the halfway mark. For instance, it won 55% of the vote share in Rajasthan, 54% in Madhya Pradesh. Even in Uttar Pradesh, which is a multi-party state and highly competitive, it won an impressive 42%. In all these states, thanks to Modi and the image that he crafted, the party was able to draw voters from social groups that are not traditionally associated with the party. Another metric that shows just how successful the BJP was are the victory margins that it pulled off. In Rajasthan, for instance, in 13 of the 25 seats, it won a victory margin of more than 20%. Clearly, this is a performance that's going to be tough to repeat, which is why the heartland states are the states that everyone will be closely watching on May 23rd.
The big prize is, of course, Uttar Pradesh with 80 seats, 71 of which went to the BJP in 2014. Akash, we know this time that the BJP faces a much tougher challenge because the primary opponents, the Bahujan Samaj Party and the Samajwadi Party, which contested separately in 2014, have now joined up. What has the BJP done to take on this challenge?
See, firstly, Rohan, what they've done is they've dropped 15 of their sitting MPs. And apart from that, they've given tickets to 27 non-Yadav OBCs, which is like in 2014, they had given it to 24 of them. And then they've had crucial alliances with the Nishad Party and other smaller outfits which represent these social groups. So in that sense, BJP has been working on this, on these particular social groups. So, and apart from that, what BJP has done is that it's banking on the success of its social welfare schemes, whether be it the Ujjwala scheme or the free houses and toilets. And many people in UP are at least talking about it. But what has backfired for the BJP is that the Yadavs and the Dalits, who form the core group of these of SP and BSP, are just not talking about it. So it remains to be seen how BJP manages to get that vote share. And as far as the religious polarization is concerned, it doesn't seem to be working on the ground at present. And in fact, I would say that it's rather backfiring because of the policy rigidity of Yogi Adityanath over the stray cattle issue. Because right now, it is one of the most important issues in Uttar Pradesh. And though people are talking about it, but it is primarily because of Modi's popularity, because it is negating that stray cattle factor. But that is not going to be the case in the future, and BJP should really be worried about it.
Just last year, the BJP was dealt a big surprise when it lost 3 of these heartland states to the Congress in their assembly elections: Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. In all 3 states, it was the Congress that managed to pull it away from the BJP. Supriya, does this mean that these results will also spill over into the Lok Sabha elections?
Rohan, usually the party that wins the assembly polls has the advantage in the Lok Sabha election. In Rajasthan, for instance, the assembly results have almost nearly always been repeated in the Lok Sabha. But this time could be different. If you remember, in the November Assembly campaign, a slogan that was commonly heard was, Modi tujhse bair nahi, Vasundhara teri khair nahi. We're not opposed to you, Modi, but watch out, Vasundhara. Voters seem to be saying, referring to Vasundhara Raje, the erstwhile Chief Minister of Rajasthan. By all accounts, that situation still remains on the ground, where there is still considerable support for the BJP, mostly because of Narendra Modi, which indicates that the Congress may make only limited gains in the state. But the situation could be different, for instance, in Chhattisgarh, a state where the Congress registered a decisive victory in the assembly polls. Here the Congress could have more significant gains, bringing down the BJP's tally.
Akash, you've spent some time in Madhya Pradesh, which the Congress managed to win in 2018. It's one of those key states where the fight is directly between the two. Do you think the Congress has done enough to understand how it can dent the BJP's vote share in the Lok Sabha elections?
In fact, Rohan, when I went to Madhya Pradesh, I was really surprised with the ground realities. Because since I was there during the assembly elections, I had this perception that the Modi factor would be working on the ground, and BJP would be able to win the almost similar number of seats that it won in the 2014 elections. But the election in Madhya Pradesh have become so localized in that sense that even party leaders, whether from BJP or from Congress, are talking about local candidates and local issues. So it is a very localized election, and credit should be given to Digvijay Singh, because the Sangh Parivar and the BJP were banking that he would respond to these wild allegations by Pragya Thakur, but he didn't, and he remained calm, because BJP was thinking that his comments would not only polarize the elections in Bhopal, but it would also polarize the entire state. So that has remained there, and Congress should be performing better than it did in 2014.
Let's go beyond the heartland, the core of it at least, to two states that in some ways sit on the periphery of this, because the BJP needs alliances to compete in these states. There's Maharashtra on one end with the Shiv Sena, and Bihar on the other end, where the primary partner of the BJP is the JDU. Supriya, you traveled to both of these states. How does the voter look at the BJP? Is it still all about Modi, or does the alliance matter more?
Rohan, Bihar has a completely different alliance picture compared to 2014. For one, the BJP has lost smaller allies like Upendra Kushwaha's party, which has now switched over to the Rashtriya Janata Dal-led Mahagathbandhan. But the BJP now has Nitish Kumar-led Janata Dal United on its side. The other notable thing is that BJP is contesting fewer seats this time, just 17, 5 seats less than the 22 seats that it won in 2014. The fact that the BJP dropped seats this time to accommodate Nitish Kumar's party indicates just how seriously it took the alliance question, how much it went out of its way to secure a strong alliance. Similarly, in Maharashtra, Amit Shah, the BJP president, went out of his way to placate Shiv Sena, an old ally that had been bickering a lot. While BJP seems to think that the alliance in both the states is key to a possible victory, on the ground, conversations with voters suggest that Modi continues to be the biggest draw for the party. Even while they complain or express disappointment with Achhe Din promised in 2014 not materializing, voters continue to praise Modi. They don't hold him accountable for whatever they think is disappointing about the last 5 years. In fact, they seem to admire him for his forceful speech, in fact, they admire him for quick decision making, even when the decisions themselves were questionable. They admire him for raising the stature of India in the world, for speaking forcefully, most of all for showing Pakistan its place, a sentiment which often gives way to anti-Muslim expressions, which goes on to show that to a very large extent, majoritarianism underpins the current moment of nationalism. As one journalist in Banaras put it, Bhagwa ka sabhya naam bankar Rashtravad ubhra hai, or nationalism is a civilized name now given to saffron.
Let's do a few more questions. What do you think is the draw of the BJP in the heartland? Is it just Modi? Is it nationalism? Is it the schemes like Ujjwala, PM Kisan? what really is the selling point, Akash, of the BJP beyond Modi?
In fact, if you go on the ground, there is nothing beyond Modi. It is all about Modi. People do not care about the candidate. They do not care about the local factors. They just, BJP supporters at least say that we are voting for Modi. And primarily that stems from the fact that they said that there is no alternative to Modi. That do we vote for Rahul Gandhi, do we vote for Mayawati or Akhilesh Yadav? And if these guys become the Prime Minister, they will try to, milk out these ministries and make money out of them. At least Modi, they feel, won't do so.
Supriya, let's say Modi is the principal factor in this election. Let's look at it a little differently. If Modi was not in the fray, would these heartland voters still be picking the BJP?
That's doubtful, Rohan. It seems likely that if Modi wasn't in the picture, they would have moved away from BJP. They would have considered other factors like candidates, local constituency dynamics. That clearly doesn't seem to be happening. In fact, it's astonishing to see the degree of popularity that the Prime Minister continues to enjoy. In fact, there are several voters, when you ask them who they are voting for, which candidate they are voting for, they say Modi. You ask them which party they are voting for, they say Modi ki kaun si party hai? Which party does Modi belong to? That shows that Modi remains the single most important factor that's drawing in voters towards the BJP.
Akash, you were talking about the performance of the alliance. Now, the alliance has come together to take on the BJP, but what is it doing on ground to take on what seems like a behemoth of a party? What is the alliance actually doing to convince voters to vote for it?
See, what is working for alliances, and as many Dalit leaders and Yadavs would say, that this alliance was primarily because of the pressure from the people on the ground, because they realized that if they have to survive politically, if BSP and SP have to survive politically from this onslaught from BJP, they have to come join forces, come together. And earlier there were apprehensions about whether these two castes would come together, whether Muslims would vote en bloc for a particular candidate. But the way it happened on ground, or the way it is happening on the ground, has surprised even some top political experts. Because right now you would see, if you go on ground, they would just hug each other and say SP, BSP are together and we have always been together. There have been few instances, that have given bad name to their alliance. But apart from that, they just believe that this is the alliance that is capable of taking on Modi and BJP.
The feeling in 2014 was that the heartland was lost to the Congress. The BJP had been in power for decades in a number of those states, and Modi won in such big numbers in 2014 that it seemed as if the Congress would not even be able to challenge them. And yet in 2018, in the 3 state elections, the Congress proved that it could challenge the BJP. But was that just anti-incumbency at the state level? Does the Congress really understand a way to come back in the heartland?
It was anti-incumbency, but not against the central leadership, not against Modi. It was anti-incumbency against the state governments which had been around, in the case of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, for 3 straight terms. And again, let's not forget that the Congress did not have a decisive victory in these 2 states. In fact, it barely made it through in Madhya Pradesh. So again, the Congress, wherever it is in a direct fight with BJP, those are states where the BJP isn't actually facing as much of a pushback as you'd normally expect. In fact, in states like UP, where SP and BSP have come together, that's where the real fight lies.
We're going to get a lot of information on May 23rd. So before we sign off, I'd like to draw your attention to a few data points that are most interesting to me. First one, before even May 23rd comes up, is the fact that the BJP has lost vote share in each of these heartland states after the original Lok Sabha elections in 2014 in the state assembly elections that followed. I'd like to get a sense from both Akash and Supriya of what you guys think is one data point, one race, one candidate, one constituency, or one statistic that you think will be most interesting for our viewers to keep track of on May 23rd. Akash?
The one detail that I would be really interested from UP would be how the alliance performs in the eastern part of UP, which has almost 27 seats. If you look at the 2014 numbers, BJP, if you just combine the vote share of the two parties, then they are leading on most of these seats and they would have won those seats. So whether they could replicate that same performance in 2019 is something to watch out for. And the other thing is how Congress performs. Whether it damages the alliance or whether it helps the alliance would determine a lot on what happens on 23rd May in UP.
It will be worth watching out for the seats where Dalits and Adivasis are in significant numbers, because it is these two social groups where the BJP has lost considerable support after gaining some in 2014. There are a host of reasons for that, but one important factor that seems to be common across states as voters express it is this fear that the BJP is tampering with reservations and could even go on to dismantle the constitutional protections that these communities have. In that sense, one interesting seat that is worth watching out for is the Banswara Dungarpur seat in southern Rajasthan, where a new party, the Bharatiya Tribal Party, has galvanized voters and could actually be very close to providing an alternative to both BJP and Congress.
We'll have a Heartland tracker for you on Scroll.in on May 23rd, where you can follow exactly this question: how has the BJP done in the states that ensured a Modi victory in 2014? We'd also like to thank you for subscribing and watching The Election Fix. Thank you.